Hello students, good afternoon. All right, today we will discuss about atomic structure. So, atomic structure. We did this chapter in details in classroom and you have sufficient notes in atomic structure. We will do some revisions of atomic structure and we have divided this atomic structure in two parts for the revision. Okay, two parts for the revision. First part is atomic structure revision up to quantum mechanical model. Quantum mechanical model. And another part is rest, that is complete atomic structure, that is wave mechanical model, and rest the laws, Pauli's, Aubers and all, filling of electrons. Okay, so first of all we will go for this quantum up to quantum mechanical model. As you know, the atomic structure is having three different model. One is classical model, classical theory, other was quantum mechanical model, and third one was wave mechanical model. In classical model we have seen, we will start from Rutherford's. Alright, we have seen the discovery of electron, discovery of proton, discovery of neutron earlier, cathode ray experiment, alright, and charge by mass ratio, charge mass ratio calculations and all we have discussed already. So, we will start from Rutherford's atomic model, Rutherford's atomic model, then we will go for Bohr's atomic model, Maxwell's theory of electromagnetic radiations, then we will go for Bohr's atomic model, BAM. Then after we will go for, alright, before Bohr's atomic model, we will go for the next, that is Planck's quantum theory and black body radiations. Planck's quantum theory and black body radiations. Then after we will discuss about Bohr's atomic model, and then after we will discuss about the calculation of radius, calculation of energy, alright, and line spectrum of hydrogen atom. Line spectrum of hydrogen atom, which is important part, line spectrum of hydrogen atom. Then we will discuss about Sommerfeld's theory, then after we will discuss about de Broglie's concept of duality, so concept, and then after we will go for Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. So, like that one by one we will do. So, first is Rutherford's atomic model. As you know, in Rutherford's scattering experiment, there was a thin gold foil. On this thin gold foil, Rutherford he did? He bombarded this thin gold foil with alpha particles and found that most of the alpha particles passes straightwise, some of the alpha particles deflected with small and large angles, and some, that is 1 out of 20,000 approximately, returned back to the same path. Based on this observation, he put forward a model of an atom which is known as Rutherford's atomic model. So, these are the alpha rays, alpha particles. When he bombarded thin gold foil with alpha particles, he found most of the alpha particles passes straightwise, some of them gets deflected with small and large angles, and some, that is 1 out of 20,000, return back to the same path. This is alpha particles. Alpha particles are what? That is doubly charged helium nucleus. Doubly charged helium nucleus, He2 plus is the alpha particles, doubly charged helium nucleus. So, it was positively charged. Then Rutherford's atomic model was basically consisting of, like, first model, that is why these rays are passing directly through this thin gold foil. That is, first concept was concept of empty space, or vacant space, concept of empty space or vacant space. Why? Because most of the alpha particles passes straightwise without any deflection. It means most of the part of an atom remains vacant. So, that is concept of empty space or vacant space. Second was some of the alpha particles deflected with small and large angles, and that deflection takes place near about its center. What does it mean? Center is having same charge as that of these alpha particles, because we know that in same charge there must be repulsive. So that is concept of positively charged center. Concept of positively charged center. Charged center. Concept of positively charged center. Third is approximately when 20,000 rays are passing through this thin gold foil, 1 out of 20,000 approx will return back to the same path, causes their deflection by 180 degree. So what does it mean? That is this center is heavy, rigid, massive. So concept of massive and rigid center. Concept of massive and rigid center. Concept of massive and rigid center. Alright, so these three, basically three model were there of Rutherford's atomic model: concept of empty space, concept of positively charged center, and concept of massive and rigid center. Okay. Then based on this model, what conclusion can be drawn? So conclusion can be drawn as the first conclusion can be drawn, that is Rutherford called this positively charged heavy rigid center as nucleus. So first was, that is positively charged massive center is called as nucleus by Rutherford. Nucleus by Rutherford. Okay. Second was, this nucleus is consisting of proton and neutron, and what we can say, since rest of the part of an atom is vacant and only center is rigid and massive, that is atomic mass is concentrated at center. Atomic mass is concentrated at center. Concentrated at center. So atomic mass is concentrated at center. Atomic mass is concentrated means, if you see the mass number, so mass number is equals to the number of proton plus number of neutron. Mass number is equals to number of proton plus number of neutron. So this atomic mass number or mass number is equals to proton plus neutron. Since mass is concentrated at center itself, what does it mean? Then he concluded this proton and neutron both together present at center. So next point is proton and neutron both present at nucleus. Both present at nucleus. Okay. Proton and neutron both present at nucleus itself, and proton can be converted to neutron, neutron can be converted to proton by meson exchange theory, by Yukawa meson exchange theory. That is, proton can be converted to neutron, neutron can be converted to proton. So proton and neutron both present at center itself, that is nucleus now. And then electron, what about electron? Electron revolves around the center. Electron revolves around this center, or around the nucleus. Now center is nucleus, so around the nucleus, alright, on a circular path. So electron revolves around the nucleus on a circular path, isn't it? So how it happened? See, suppose we'll take this atom. This atom is their nucleus. Nucleus is having proton and neutron. They are positively charged. And what about electron? Electron cannot be present at this nucleus itself. If the electron is present, then number of electron is equals to number of proton for neutral atom. Then what will happen? This positive charge of nucleus gets neutralized and atom will collapse. So this is not possible to keep electron inside the nucleus. Obviously, this is positive charge and somewhere there must be negative charge to neutralize this atom, because atom as a whole remains neutral. So suppose electron is present at this place. if electron is present at this place, there must be some attraction from this nucleus in between these two, because now we have two opposite charge, plus and minus, and whenever two opposite charges are separated through certain distance, let's say r, there must be electrostatic force of attraction. So electrostatic force of attraction, F of electrostatic attraction is proportional to the product of charge q1 q2 and their inversely proportional to the distance square, that is r square. So electrostatic force of attraction Fe can be calculated as k into q1 q2 by r square, k into q1 q2 by r square, where k is a proportionality constant. Its value is, the value of k is equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. The value of k is equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. So if it is taken into consideration, what we can say, all right, this charged particles electron, all right, this charged particle electron is present at certain distance from this nucleus. Let's say the distance is r, and this electron will not remain on the straight line itself, because if electron will remain on the straight line, then sometimes it might happen when electrostatic force of attraction increases, electron will come closer to the nucleus and ultimately electron may fall into the nucleus, which does not happen. So what will happen? There will be electron. When electron is at this place, there will be electron. Again there will be attraction. There will be attraction. There will be attraction. There will be attraction. So this electron will not remain at rest. Rather, it will not remain at rest. Rather, these are moving electrons. These are moving electrons. Okay. So what we can say? This electron will experience electrostatic force of attraction, which is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r square, q1 q2 by r square. Let's say q1 is the charge on, nucleus. Charge on nucleus. If charge on nucleus will calculate, so charge on nucleus is because of proton. Proton is, let's say proton, the charge on proton is equals to the charge of electron with opposite sign. So charge on proton is E, and number of proton will be their atomic number. So number of proton, let's say atomic number Z. So charge on nucleus will be, on one proton charge is E, on Z proton charge is Ze. So charge on nucleus will be Z into E itself. Similarly, if Q2 is the charge on electron, so charge on electron is written as E. Over here, this electron is attracted through nucleus, not only one proton. This electron is attracted through nucleus. Therefore, this nuclear charge is experienced on this electron itself. So what is there? Nuclear charge, we have taken Z into E instead of taken as one proton charge. So Z into E. But this Z into E nucleus will experience certain electrostatic force of attraction on each electron. So on each electron their charge is E. Therefore we can say electrostatic force of attraction due to nucleus and each electron will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Ze into E divided by r square. Alright, okay. Again the value of Z, the value of 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, if we calculate, so the value of 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught is equals to 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton meter square by Coulomb square. This is in SI system, okay, but it is equals to 1 in CGS system. CGS system, this value is taken as 1 dyne centimeter square by stat Coulomb square, that is 1 CGS in CGS system. If we will take this value in CGS system, so our calculation will become easy, and then we can proceed further like this. Now the force of attraction is written as, that is 1 into Ze square divided by r square. Therefore force is written all the time Ze square by r square. Mind it, if Ze square by r square is written, that is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught value is taken as 1 in CGS system. So the value must be in CGS system, the force of attraction must be in dyne. Alright, this must be in the terms of dyne, that is Ze square by r square. No problem. Where Z is what? Z is atomic number, that is number of proton. E is E into E. So Z into E into E. ZE is what? The charge on nucleus, E is the charge on electron, and therefore it is written as ZE square by R square. Alright. Again, whenever, suppose there is an object, alright, in vertical circle, if there is an object which is tied, alright, and they are revolved around in the vertical circle, then there is a law, that is, they experience certain electrostatic, certain force of attraction towards the nucleus, towards the center. That force of attraction is called as centripetal force. Centripetal force. Over here, centripetal force magnitude is must be equals to their electrostatic attraction, because these two are charged particles, and this centripetal force must be balanced by equal and opposite pseudo force, that is called as centrifugal force. Force acting away from center, so centrifugal force. Okay, this magnitude of centrifugal force is equals to mv square by r. Magnitude of centrifugal force from physics is equals to mv square by r. So any object which will move, which will revolve on a vertical circle, they will have two types of force of attraction. One is towards the center, other is away from the center. If both the forces are at equal magnitude, then that particular object will remain on the vertical circle itself. If centrifugal force is more than centripetal force, that object will flee away from there. If centripetal force is more than centrifugal force, then object will fall down on the center itself. So these are the concept. So what we can say, since if electron will not change their path, if electron remains on this path, what we can say, the electrostatic force of attraction which is acting towards the center, that must be balanced by the pseudo force. So next is what? That is, I hope this is fifth number. So fifth conclusion can be drawn as, that is electron, write down, when electron revolves around the nucleus, when electron revolves around the nucleus on a circular path, revolves around the nucleus on a circular path, around the nucleus on a circular path, alright, their force of attraction, that is electrostatic force, must be balanced by electrostatic force, must be balanced by centrifugal force, must be balanced by equal and opposite, balanced by centrifugal force. Centrifugal force must be balanced by centrifugal force. Okay, if it is balanced by centrifugal force, so what we can write over there again? Okay, so centrifugal force, what we can say, that is CF is equals to FE, F of electrostatic attractions. थोड़ी देर बाद निकलूंगा करूंगा. Alright, so what we can say, this is what CF is, that is F of E is equals to CF. F of E is what? ZE square by R square. CF is MB square by R. R and square is cancelled. Therefore, we can say MV square is equals to ZE square by R. Therefore, V square can be calculated ZE square by M into R. So, V can be calculated as ZE square by MR and square root of this. That is, if you want to know about the velocity of moving electrons, then we can say velocity of moving electrons can be calculated by this equation by using square root of ZE square by MR. Alright, ZE square by MR. Okay. Alright, understood. So what we did, that is electron is revolving around a nucleus on a circular path. If electron will revolve around a nucleus on a circular path, what will happen? Their electrostatic force of attraction must be balanced by their opposite centrifugal force, which is a pseudo force. That is Fe is equals to Cf. ZE square by R square is the magnitude of Fe. You have written over there. That is equals to MB square by R. So R and square is cancelled. So ZE square by R is equals to MB square. So V square is equals to ZE square by MR. Therefore, velocity can be calculated by using square root of ZE square by MR for this moving electrons. Okay. All right. Now, suppose we take a nucleus over here and somewhere there is electrons. electron, if there is electron at this point, any point where, let's say infinity, this is the point of infinity, there is no attraction between them. So force of attraction is 0. When this electron is kept at certain distance, let's say this distance, and this distance is r, let's say, then there must be attraction of this electron with the nucleus, and due to attraction, all right, they will start revolving around this nucleus on this circular path at this point, at this distance r. So what we can say, this electron must be brought from somewhere, all right, towards the center, towards the nucleus, okay, so that there must be electrostatic force of attraction is, acting over there. So the minimum amount of work done which is required to bring an electron to certain distance, all right, under the influence of nucleus, where they experience some electrostatic attraction, that particular work done, the amount of work done which you did, that is called as their potential energy or potential. So what we can say, potential energy we can define on the basis of this. So potential energy can be defined as either you did the work to bring electron from infinity to the distance. Since electron is brought from infinity towards the nucleus, towards an atom, that is this potential energy is positive value, positive potential energy. If electron is taken away from this nuclear attractions to the infinity, then their potential energy value must be negative. It is just like when suppose an object is moving towards the earth. So if object is moving towards the earth, their G value will be taken as positive. Away from when it is thrown away, that their G value will be negative. Similarly over there we will use the sign convention. Plus potential energy when electron is brought from infinity to the certain distance under the influence of nucleus, potential energy is taken as positive. If electron is taken away from the nuclear attraction to the infinity where its attraction becomes 0, that then potential energy value becomes negative. Okay. So now if we calculate their potential energy, or we will define potential energy, what is this? The minimum amount of work done which is required to bring an electron from certain distance under the influence of nucleus to infinity is called as their potential energy, or infinity to certain distance under the influence of nucleus is called as their potential energy. So potential energy can be written as, this is equals to, okay, potential energy. If it is positive, positive means electron is brought from infinity towards the nucleus, and minus potential energy means electron is brought from a certain point to the infinity, then potential energy is taken as negative. All right, this is nothing, it is minimum amount of work done. So work done to bring an electron, if work done is taken as this negative, so what does it mean? Minus of work done, that is force into distance. So force is taken as Ze square by r square. This is the force which is acting over there on this electron under the influence of nucleus, into r, distance r and square is cancelled. So this value will become minus Ze square by r. So therefore potential energy is written as minus Ze square by r. If we put their value as in a SI system, so 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Ze square by r is the value of their potential energy. Alright. Okay. Similarly, now if we calculate kinetic energy from this, kinetic energy by using this concept, how we can calculate, see. So kinetic energy of moving electron, is equals to, that can be written as half mv square. Okay. This is equals to half mv square. V square from this equation is Ze square by mr. So m and m is cancelled. This will be equals to 1 by 2 of Ze square by r. So kinetic energy calculation, kinetic energy is equals to 1 by 2 of Ze square by r. Potential energy equals to minus of Ze square by r. Let's say this velocity expression is equation number 1, potential energy expression is equation number 2, kinetic energy expression is equation number 3. So we have three different equations from this, that is velocity is square root of Ze square by mr, potential energy is minus Ze square by r, kinetic energy is half of Ze square by r. Minus sign indicates that electron is brought from nucleus to infinity, and plus sign of potential energy means electron is brought from infinity towards the nucleus at up to certain distance under the influence of nuclear attractions. Okay, so we can calculate potential energy, we can calculate kinetic energy, we can calculate velocity of moving electron by using this concept. All right, I hope you understood. So this is about Rutherford's atomic model and conclusion which we can draw from Rutherford's atomic model itself. Then after there was Maxwell's theory of electromagnetic radiations. Maxwell's theory of electromagnetic radiations. Maxwell's theory of electromagnetic radiations. What it states? Maxwell's theory states that any object which is in continuous motion or oscillation, any charged particles, any charged object which is in continuous motion or oscillation, during oscillation they emit certain radiations which consist of electric field as well as magnetic field, and such radiations are called as electromagnetic radiations. That is, any charged particle which is in continuous motion, any charged particle which is in continuous motion, any charged particle which is in continuous motion, which is in continuous motion, emits a radiation consisting of electric as well as magnetic field. Electric as well as magnetic field. Any charged particle which is in continuous motion or oscillation emits a radiation consisting of electric and magnetic field. Such radiations are called as electromagnetic radiations. Such radiations are called as electromagnetic radiations. So electromagnetic radiations are consisting of both electric as well as magnetic field. These radiations are consisting of both electric as well as magnetic field. Both electric and magnetic field remains at perpendicular to each other, propagates. All right. So this both electric and magnetic field are at right angles to each other, right angles to each other. Okay, both electric and magnetic fields are at right angle to each other. Okay, now third is this electric and magnetic field, since they are consisting of both, they gets deflected, these rays deflected, they gets deflected in both electric and magnetic field, deflected in both electric and magnetic field, where it gets deflected in both electric and magnetic field. Okay, these rays are consisting of electric and magnetic field. Both electric and magnetic field remains at right angle to each other. They gets reflected in both electric as well as in magnetic field. All right. Next we can say these rays consist of these radiations are consisting of following types of rays. These are we can say Rumi-Boksic, that is radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays and cosmic rays. Radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, cosmic rays. So you can remember this Rumi-Boksic. R stands for radio waves, M stands for microwaves, I stands for infrared, V stands for visible, U stands for ultraviolet, X stands for X-rays, Y stands for gamma rays, and C stands for cosmic rays. Cosmic rays. Okay. Radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, cosmic rays. These are in order of, okay, so cosmic rays, greater energy. So these are in order of increasing frequency or decreasing wavelength. These are in order of increasing frequency or decreasing wavelength. So increasing frequency or decreasing wavelength. So obviously cosmic rays will have highest energy and radio waves will have lowest energy. Cosmic rays will have shortest wavelength, radio waves will have longest wavelength. Okay. Alright. So again, next point is, it was fourth. Next point, during radiations, what will happen? The energy and velocity of moving object decreases. All right, object decreases. What will happen? During radiations, the energy and velocity of moving or oscillating object decreases. If we apply this concept on Rutherford's atomic model, what will get? See, if we apply this concept on Rutherford's atomic model, we will get, suppose there is an atom, there is nucleus, electron is revolving around this nucleus on a circular path, but according to Maxwell's, what he states, so this is charged particles revolving around this center. Whenever charged particle is in continuous motion or oscillation, they emit radiation, certain radiations. This also will emit certain radiations, and due to emission of radiations, what will happen? They decreases their velocity and centrifugal force. So what will happen? There is electrostatic force of attraction. Over here there is centrifugal force. Okay. So when this electron will revolve around the nucleus, according to Maxwell's theory, this electron during revolving around the nucleus, they will also causes electromagnetic radiations. Once electromagnetic radiations takes place, their energy and velocity will decrease, and then their path will become like this. So that electron will fall into the nucleus after certain time, which did not happen, and hence this was the major drawback of Rutherford's atomic model. So drawback of Rutherford's atomic model was, this is a major drawback of Rutherford's atomic model. What is that? That is when electron which is revolving around the nucleus, alright, also undergoes radiations which is electromagnetic in nature, and during electromagnetic radiation, since energy and velocity both will decrease, so that the centrifugal force, which is mv square by r, this force will decrease, and when this centrifugal force will decrease, then of course the magnitude of this electrostatic force of attraction overcomes or passes or crosses the force, centrifugal force. So electron will change their path, and ultimately it will fall into the nucleus, alright, in very short time, which did not happen, and hence the theory flopped. This is the case of drawback of Rutherford's atomic model. This is a major drawback. Another drawback, many other drawback of Rutherford's atomic model you can say, like it did not explain about the subshell, it did not explain about the orbital, it did not explain about the electron positions and all. Many other drawbacks we can say that is associated drawback, but the major drawback is, according to, if we follow Rutherford's atomic model, electron will continuously change the path, and this model is not explaining the continuous revolution of electron around the nucleus. This model does not explain about the existence of atom itself, if we follow, and if we will not encounter this problem. So therefore this is the drawback of Rutherford's atomic model. Okay, I hope you understood. Then after that, there was Planck's quantum theory. Planck's quantum theory. Planck's quantum theory and black body radiations. So what is this? Any perfect black body is an object which can absorb all the radiations, and when it is brought in dark, it will emit all of its radiations. That the object is called as black body. So the radiations which are coming out from, all right, a black body or an object which is consisting of all the radiations, and they will emit all the radiations when they are brought in dark. Okay, or an object, if it is heated, all right, strongly, so heated strongly, and then after when it is kept at cold conditions, they starts radiations and they will radiate all of its radiations, then such object is called as black body. During this radiation is also electromagnetic in nature. So Planck states that whenever the radiations takes place in phase wise. Radiations takes place in the form of small packets, because these consist of multiple radiations. Multiple radiations will have different type of their wavelength, so it will not radiate the energy consisting of one type of wavelength. It will have multi chromatic radiations, you can say. So Planck's quantum theory states that electromagnetic radiation or absorption of energy takes place in the form of small packets, energy packets or bundles. Those energy packets or bundles are called as photon or quanta. So already I have written. So Planck's quantum theory states that this consisting of small packets or bundles, and one packet will have one type of energy, one type of wavelength. That is, if one type of wavelength is there, that is, we can say they are monochromatic light, monochromatic radiations. So it states that the energy absorption and emission takes place in the form of small packets or bundles, which is known as quanta or photon. So radiations or absorption of energy takes place in the form of small packets or bundles of energy, which is known as quanta or photon. Each quanta or photon consisting of certain wavelength or frequency. Where energy of each quanta or photon is directly proportional to the frequency, alright, that is E is proportional to nu, and therefore we can say E is equals to h into nu, where h is a constant known as Planck's constant, h is a constant which is known as Planck's constant, and the value of Planck's constant is 6.634 into 10 to the power minus 34 joule second. The value of h is 6.634 into 10 to the power minus 34 joule second. Okay, this can also be written as E is equals to h nu or h c by lambda, because nu is equals to c by lambda. So greater the value of lambda, lesser will be their energy, and greater will be the frequency, and greater will be their energy. Okay, so energy is directly proportional to frequency, and energy is inversely proportional to wavelength, that is lambda. Okay, that is Planck's quantum theory. And then after there was development of Bohr's atomic model. Bohr's atomic model was already we have explained. Alright, just you see, Bohr states that the very first point, this electron which is revolving around the nucleus, they will not change their path, they remains fixed. And the path where this electron will revolve around the nucleus, this remains fixed. What does it mean? The distance over here, it is r. Let's say everywhere the distance will remain same, r and r. So that this path which remains fixed, on which electron will revolve, this path is called as stationary path. Or this stationary path permits electron to revolve around the nucleus, and therefore it is also known as permissible path or permissible orbit. So electron will revolve on the permissible orbit, alright, which remains fixed around the nucleus. Then these permissible orbit must have certain momentum value, and their momentum is written as their angular momentum. Angular momentum is equals to what? that is momentum is mass into velocity, m into v is momentum. So momentum across distance r is angular momentum, that is mv cross r, that is mbr. mbr is what? Their angular momentum. Then it states that their angular momentum of this permissible path is nothing, it is proportional to a constant, that is h cross. So this is proportional to mbr is proportional to a constant h cross, where the value of h cross is equals to h by 2 pi, where the value of h cross, this is nothing, it is h cross from calculation, spectrum calculation itself, h cross. So the value of h cross is nothing, it is h by 2 pi. So MVR is proportional to h cross, that is proportional to h by 2 pi. Therefore we can say MVR is equals to n into h by 2 pi. That is, it is integral multiple of h cross. Integral multiple of h cross. This MVR is called as orbit angular momentum. Orbit, this is called as orbit angular momentum. Orbit angular momentum. So orbit angular momentum or angular momentum for cell is equals to nothing, it is integral, n value is nothing, it is an integer. So n value can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on, so on. N cannot be 0 because 0 means there is no cell. So n cannot be 0. If it is 0, so this angular momentum value will become 0. Alright, if it becomes 0, there will be no electron, alright, or such electronic path or such permissible path in that particular atom, and atom consists of only nucleus, which is not possible. Okay, so n is 0 and 0 is not possible. If n is equals to 1, we can say n is equals to 1 means angular momentum or orbit angular momentum OAM, orbit angular momentum is equals to h by 2 pi if n is equals to 1. If n is equals to 2, orbit angular momentum is what? That is 2 into h by 2 pi. So 2 into h by 2 pi, that is h by pi itself. If n is equals to 3, orbit angular momentum can be written as, this is 3 into h by 2 pi. So 3 into h by 2 pi, this is possible. So 3h by 2 pi, that is possible. 4h by 2 pi, that is h by 4 pi, that is possible. See now, if it is this, what we can say, n is equals to 3 and orbit angular momentum is equals to 3 into h by 2 pi. If n is equals to 4, the orbit angular momentum OAM can be written as, that is 4 into h by 2 pi, that is 2h by pi. 2h by pi. So you might have this question, which of the following for angular momentum is correct? Okay, one option is given h by 2 pi, other option is given h by pi, third option is given 2h by pi, fourth option is given h by 4 pi. Fourth option is given h by 4 pi. Is it possible? So this is not possible. How? Why? So let's say multiply this value. Okay, if it is 4, so we can say h by 2 pi is the value, and if 1 by 2 is there, n value, if it is 1 by 2, then it will become h by 4 pi. N value cannot be fractional. If n value cannot be fractional, then this value of angular momentum is not possible. But angular momentum 3h by 2 pi, that is possible. Why? Because n is equals to 3, so h by 2 pi is the value of h cross. So h integral, this is 3 times of h by 2 pi, that is the value possible for orbit angular momentum. So if question is which of the following orbit angular momentum is not possible, so h by 4 pi value is not possible. Alright, because n value cannot be fractional. Understood? Okay. Then after, he states that this electron which will revolve around the nucleus in permissible path, this permissible path will possess least amount of energy. So in permissible path or stationary path, they possess least energy. So least energy value will be there. If least energy is there, what does it mean? Such state is ground state. Such state is called as ground state. That is, less than this energy value is not possible. So this is the least value of their energy, where electron is permitted to revolve around the nucleus on this particular path. So they possess least energy, and that is called as ground state. Then when this electron will absorb, exposes to certain radiations, they will absorb some radiations, and after absorbing certain radiations, they will increase their energy, and due to increase in their energy, their path may change. Okay, so then it states that electron, by the absorption of energy, by the absorption of radiations, by the absorption of radiations, all right, their energy increases, their energy increases, their energy increases, and flew away to the higher cell, higher number of shell, all right, to the higher number of cell. So electron which poses, which is revolving around the nucleus on stationary path, possessing least energy, that is called as ground state, and then rest of the state, rest of the energy level or energy cell, that is their excited state. So that excited state are having higher energy cell, that is higher number of cells, and such process is called as electronic transitions. Such process is called as electronic transitions. That is, transition means change of cell, change of numbers. So electronic transition which takes place, alright, by absorbing certain higher energy value, by absorbing certain radiations, and those radiations are sufficient to flew up the electron from their lower energy state to higher energy state. Okay, then once it jumps to their higher energy state, that is known as their excitation. So jumping of electron to higher energy state is excitation. Jumping of electron to higher energy state is excitation. Higher energy state, that is nothing, it is excitation. And falling back, excitation, falling back to the lower energy state, that is called as their, alright, de-excitation. Falling back to lower energy state, that is called as de-excitation. So electronic transition consisting of excitation and de-excitation. Okay, during de-excitation they will give off those radiations, alright. So when electron gets de-excited from higher energy cells to lower energy cells, they gives off all of its radiations which we have taken to move to higher state. So what will happen? Then electrons will lose all the energy. During de-excitation, electrons will lose all of its radiations, to come back to their ground state, Okay. Now electron remains in excited state, alright, for very short time, fraction of second state, for 10 to the power minus 8 second approximately. After that it has to fall back to the ground state. Okay. So now during excitation and de-excitation, the energy difference between two cells, can be calculated as del E, which is equals to E2 minus E1, and this del E, which is the difference of E2 minus E1, must be equals to energy of one photon, that is h into nu or hc by lambda, because there is energy is quantized in the form of small packets or bundles. Each packet or bundle will have certain value of their frequency or lambda, certain value of their frequency or wavelength. So therefore, by taking up one photon of that lambda or nu, this electron causes their excitation or de-excitation and changes their energy level, so that energy difference between two cells can be calculated, that is, that must be equals to the energy of one photon or energy of each photon. So del E must be equals to E2 minus E1, that is h nu or hc by lambda. Again, let us say there is nucleus, first cell, second cell, third cell, fourth cell, fifth cell and so on, and this is, let us say it is infinity. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and this is infinity. So what we can say, energy of infinity, if energy of infinity is there, so infinity will be, their energy will be what? That is E of infinity, that is equals to 0. E of energy infinity is equals to 0. So E1 we can calculate. So from this Bohr's calculation, we can calculate the value of energy, we can calculate the value of radius, and we can calculate the value of velocity, we can calculate the value of their angular velocity, time period, so on, so on. So I gave earlier itself the expression of radius calculation. Radius calculation was, that is r nth. If you want to calculate r nth, this is equals to r1 into n square by z. What was the equation I gave? For radius expression, equation I gave, r nth is equals to n square h square by 4 pi square mz e square. I have derived this relation already in your class itself. R nth is equals to n square h square by 4 pi square mz e square. So radius variation is depending upon n square by z. So radius varies as n square by z. So R nth is equals to R1 into n square by z. The value of R1 is taken as 0.529 angstrom into n square by z. This is equals to R nth. This this expression is used for uni-electronic system. Mind it. So this is used for uni-electronic system, not for multi-electronic system. If you want to calculate multi-electronic system, you need to calculate R1 for multi-electronic system first. So this is used for uni-electronic system or mono-electronic system, that is atom consisting of only one electron, that is hydrogen or hydrogen-like species, helium helium ion, He plus, lithium 2 plus, like that. All are having one electron. Hydrogen is having one electron, helium plus is having one electron, lithium 2 plus is having one electron. Okay, so this is valid for one electron system only. So where R is calculated as R nth is equals to 0.529 angstrom into n square by z. Okay. Similarly, if R nth varies like this, that is, we can say as the number of cell increases, radius increases, as the number of cell decreases, radius decreases. Okay. Similarly, the energy expression we have calculated, energy expression which I gave earlier itself, energy that was equals to E nth, this is equals to what? Minus 2 pi square mz square E4 by n square h square. N square h square. So E nth were calculated as E nth is equals to minus 2 pi square mz square E4 by n square h square. So energy nth is equals to E1 is a constant into, it varies as z square by n square. So z square by n square. Again is for mono-electronic system, uni-electronic system only, because uni-electronic system E1 value is taken as 13 minus of 13.6 electron volt into z square by n square. This is the value we have taken. So E nth is equals to minus 13.6 electron volt into z square by n square. Okay, so 13.6 electron volt is taken as for one electronic system. Okay, where n is equals to 1 and z is equals to 1, n is equals to 1 and z is equals to 1. So our E nth is equals to E1 itself. All right. So this expression will use. Negative sign indicates that net energy is negative. What does it mean? That is lowest value of their energy, that is the ground state energy. So ground state energy, negative sign indicates that their lowest value of their energy, that is ground state energy. Less than this energy for that particular cell is not possible. What does it mean? If there is hydrogen atom, suppose, and n is taken as 1, n is taken as 1 for the first cell, the value of E is equals to 13.6 electron volt only. So less than 13.6 electron volt for hydrogen atom for their first cell is not possible. Alright, that is the meaning of negative sign over there. Now, if we calculate E1, so E1 for hydrogen atom, suppose, for hydrogen atom if we calculate E1, this is equals to what? Minus 13.6 electron volt. If we calculate E2, what does it mean? E2 is equals to what? Minus, again for hydrogen atom, so Z remains as 1. But now for second cell, N is equals to 2. So Z square by N square 2 square means 4, that is E1 by 4, 13.6 electron by 4 is equals to minus 3.4 electron volt. Understood? E3 is equals to what? That is minus 13.6 electron volt divided by 9. So minus 13.6 electron volt divided by 9, it is approximately how much? So 13.6 divided by 9, that is 9 1 ja 9, 4 3, 9.56 something. So 9.5, that is 1.56. So 1.56 electron volt approximately. You calculate the exact value, no problem. So what we can observe, as we proceed away from the nucleus, energy increases. As we proceed away from the nucleus, energy increases. As we proceed towards the nucleus, energy decreases. Alright, therefore, when we reach to the infinity, so infinity, N is equals to infinity, that is something in by infinity square, that is equals to, not defined, that is what? That 0. So infinity, that is what we can say, Enth is equals to what? E1 into Z square by infinity square, that is what? 0. So this will become 0. So if 0 value is this, what does it mean? 0 value is greater than minus 13.6 electron volt. At this point, at infinity, there is no force of attraction. If there is no force of attraction, something is gone to the infinity, they will not return back. Okay. Alright. So like this we can calculate their energy expression. We can find out the difference of energy between two cells also. Like suppose difference, conjugative cell difference we can calculate, E2 minus E1 we can calculate, E3 minus E2 we can calculate, E4 minus E3 we can calculate E3 minus E1, we can calculate E4 minus E1. So difference between two cells we can calculate also, no problem. So whatever the demand of question will be there, accordingly we will solve the questions. Okay, this is about radius and energy expressions according to Bohr's. Now, line spectrum of hydrogen atom. Line spectrum of hydrogen atom, what it states and how it can be calculated. So suppose there is hydrogen atom line spectrum, we have taken a discharge tube, hydrogen gas is filled and electric discharge, high voltage is passed through them. What happened? Then hydrogen gets ionized and it was consisting of several splitted lines, several broken lines. Those lines were called as line spectra of hydrogen atom. This line spectra of hydrogen atom, if you see, this is of two types, emission and absorption. So let's say there is, we'll draw the picture of emission spectra. Let's say there is 1, this is 2, this is 3, 4, 5, 6 and then after there is infinity. Okay. So there were different type of lines were observed named as Lyman, Balmer, Paschen, Brackett, Fund, Humphrey and so on. You can put your name also, Pandey, Panda, Chaudhary, and name the different series. Alright. See, suppose some lines are there. One electron is there at the first cell and they get excited to their higher energy cells, but after de-excitation they return to the first cell. So this will be one line. Again from fifth cell also they will return to the first cell. So all the lines which are okay coming up to the first cell only, consisting of one series of lines, and such series of lines were discovered by Lyman, named as Lyman series. Similarly, when it approaches to the second cell, the name of the series of lines were called as Balmer series. When these lines approaches to the third cell, these lines were called as Paschen series. When these lines approaches to the fourth cell, alright, these lines were called as Brackett series. Lyman, Balmer, Paschen, Brackett, Fund. The series of lines which consist of alright, which approaches to the fifth cell, they are called as Fund series. And then after there is Humphrey series. Recently it was added Humphrey series. So Lyman, Balmer, Paschen, Brackett, Fund and Humphrey. So basically we use Lyman, Balmer, Paschen, Brackett and Pfund. Lyman series lies in ultraviolet region, Balmer in visible region, Paschen in infrared, Brackett in infrared, Pfund in infrared, all these are in infrared. If there is Humphrey, they are in far infrared region. Far infrared region. Okay. By using this energy calculation, we can calculate the wavelength of each radiations. See how it is. Since we know that delta is equals to E2 minus E1, that is equals to h nu or hc by lambda. Okay. So E2 minus E1, E2 value is minus 2 pi square mz square E4 by n square h square. So we will take n2 square h square minus of 2 pi square mz square E4 by n1 square h square. Okay. In this equation, we can use 2 pi square me4 by h square as common. So 2 pi square me4 by h square is common. Left out value is 1 by n1 square minus 1 by n2 square. This is equals to del E or hc by lambda. So therefore 1 by lambda can be calculated as 2 pi square me4 by ch cube into 1 by n1 square minus 1 by n2 square. This 1 by lambda is known as their wave number. This is equals to 1 by lambda, reciprocal of wavelength, which is equals to 2 pi square me4 by ch cube into z also, 2 pi square mz square. So z square is there, z square is there. So 2 pi square me4 by ch cube is a constant known as Rydberg constant into z square into 1 by n1 square minus 1 by n2 square. Okay. So with the help of this relation, we can calculate the wavelength of each lines, alright, or wave number of each line if n1 and n2 is known. If n1 and n2 is known. n1 is ground state, n2 is excited state, n1 is lower energy state, n2 is higher energy state. Simply we use the difference of energy over there, and as you know, difference must be positive. So this value must be positive. So E2 minus E1 we have taken difference. Alright, so E2 minus E1 because E2 is having higher energy, E1 is having lower energy. So we have taken difference and difference must be positive. So this is equals to nu inverse, that is equals to 1 by lambda is equals to RHZ square into 1 by n1 square minus 1 by n2 square. Okay. So by using this relation, let's say n1 is equals to 1. If n1 is equals to 1, obviously series of lines must be Lyman series. If n1 is equals to 2, the series of line must be Balmer series. n1 is equals to 3, series must be Paschen, 4 bracket 5 Pfund. Okay. So if n1 is equals to 2, 1 and n2 is equals to 4, suppose. n1 is equals to 1, n2 is equals to 4. We need to calculate the lambda. So 1 by lambda is equals to what? RH, the value of RH you must know, that is what? 1.09371 into 10 to the power 7 meter inverse. 1.09371 into 10 to the power 7 meter inverse. Okay, that is the value constant. So 1 by lambda is equals to RH value, that is RH into Z square. Let's say there Z is 1 for hydrogen atom only. So Z is 1, so 1 into 1 by 1 square minus 1 by 4 square. So 4 square. This is equals to what? That is RH into 1 by 1, 1 minus 1 by 16. What is the value? 15 RH by 16 is the value of 1 by lambda. Therefore, lambda is equals to 16 by 15 RH. Okay. So, using this relation and multiple relations, we have already did that, all those relations. You can go through your notes. Okay, this is about Bohr's model and Bohr's model line spectrum of hydrogen, radius and energy calculations. Okay. Then after we will go for Sommerfeld's theory. We will go for Sommerfeld's theory. Sommerfeld was the first man who gave an idea of elliptical path, and for any object how we can decide their path. See, suppose something I want to draw on the board itself. Can you guess what I am going to do? No, you can't, because you cannot guess my mindset, right? My mind, what is going on in mind, you cannot guess it. So you'll say, sir, you are going to draw straight line, I'll draw circle. You'll say, yes, you are going to draw circle, I'll draw straight line, no problem. So you cannot judge my mind, you cannot decide, you cannot control my mind itself, right? Okay. Sommerfeld states that suppose there is trajectory of electron, we need to decide. So trajectory of electron, how we can decide? See, suppose we have taken this path which is elliptical path, which is having two axes, major and minor axis. So this is what major axis, this is what minor axis. Let's say this is n and this is k. So length of major axis by length of minor axis is equals to n by k. The max value of k is equals to n. Alright, the max value of k is equals to n. If k is greater than n, then n will become minor and k will become major. Okay, and then this elliptical will be vertical ellipse. Right now it is horizontal ellipse, this will become vertical ellipse. This is the value of n and this is the value of k. Alright, that is only difference. So the max value of k is equals to n. Alright, k cannot be 0. K should not be 0. Alright, now if k is 0, what we can say? There is straight line and electron cannot move in straight line. Electron is revolving, it is not in straight line, it is not having straight line trajectory. So electron cannot have straight line trajectory. Electron should not be at rest. Alright, okay. So what we can say, by using this length of major and length of minor axis, we can decide the trajectory of electron. How? Let's say if n is equals to 1, the value of k will be 1. If value of k will be 1, n and k 1, so only one possible path is there, that is spherical. If the value of n is equals to 2, the k value will be 1 and 2. Okay, 2 by 1, that is elliptical, but 2 by 2 is spherical path. N is equals to 3, so k value can be 1, 2, 3. So 1 is elliptical, 2 is elliptical, but 3 by 3 will be spherical, and so on we can say. That is, first cell is made up of single subcell which is spherical. Second cell is made up of two subcell, one is spherical, other is elliptical. Third cell is made up of three subcell, one is spherical and the two are elliptical, and so on. So it states that number of cells consisting of subcell, and subcell can be spherical, can be elliptical, can be spherical, can be elliptical. That depends upon the trajectory of an electron. Okay, and Sommerfeld then states in their statement as the Bohr's first cell was made up of single subcell which is spherical, second cell is made up of two subcell, one is spherical, another is elliptical, third cell is made up of three subcell, one is spherical, another two are elliptical, fourth is made up of four subcell, that is number of cells. Mind it, number of cells is equals to number of subcell is equals to number of cell only. 5 cell, 5 subcell, 6 cell, 6 subcell, like that. Okay. Then spherical cell were written as subcell, spherical were written as S. So whatever the spherical was there, that is S. Then elliptical is written as P, D, F, G, H, and so on, so on. So therefore, it was the basis of arriving this concept of subcell SPDF. Alright, SPDF. SPDF represents their types of subcell, N represents the types of cell. So N consisting of number of subcells. Alright, like suppose there is an atom, this is first cell is consisting of only one trajectory of electron is possible. Second cell, in their second cell according to the Sommerfeld, two types of trajectory is possible, one is spherical and another is elliptical, like this. If there is third cell is having different types of possibilities, one is spherical, 2 is elliptical, and elliptical path will be like this. Okay, so this picture of an atom we are called as diffused picture of an atom. So diffused picture of an atom. Okay, it was Sommerfeld's concept. Again, one more modification was there in Sommerfeld to calculate their energy. Energy of subshell is calculated as E net is equals to minus 2 pi square mz square E4 by nr plus n phi whole square h square. Alright, it is rare point. So energy of this is equals to minus 2 pi square mz square E4 by nr plus n phi whole square h square, where nr is radial quantum number. Nr is radial quantum number, which is equals to root over n into n plus 1. Okay, n phi is angular quantum number. Angular quantum number, and the value of angular quantum number was n phi is angular quantum number, and the value of angular quantum number was taken as root over L into L plus 1. Alright, this is angular quantum number. It was the basis of arriving angular quantum momentum, that is quantum momentum for subshell or orbital, because subshell is consisting of orbital. Later on we will discuss about the orbital concept. So n phi is angular quantum number, that is equals to root over L into L plus 1. Nr is radial quantum number whose value is root over n into n plus 1. N is, that is number of shell. L represents, that is L is called as azimuthal quantum number. L represents types of subshell. L represents types of subshell. L represents types of subshell. N represents number of cell. Okay, the value of L is S. For S it is 0, for P it is 1, for D it is 2, for F it is 3, and so on, so on. Alright, later on we will discuss, and we have discussed already, alright, in their quantum number. Alright, in your notes it is there, so you can revise those things from there itself. It was about Sommerfeld's theory. Okay, then remaining is, that is quantum mechanical model, de Broglie's and Heisenberg's. We will discuss in next video. Thank you very much. Thank you.